What do you do when your own child turns you into a stranger at her wedding and then hands you the bill with a smile? The shocking part is just ahead, so stay close. And please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps keep these real stories alive. I used to think love could survive anything. Work late, then wake at dawn for a science fair. Save every receipt, stretch every dollar, and still bring home a cake on a Wednesday because a teenage girl had a hard day. I believed that love kept a house together even when the roof leaked and the door swelled in the summer. I am Regina Cole, 52 years old, a case manager for a neighborhood health clinic in West Baltimore. I raised my daughter, Layla, in a row house that knew our laughter and our storms. I taught her how to cook grits without lumps and how to sit with grief without running. I taught her to say please and thank you. I thought I taught her to remember the hands that held her up. The wedding took place in Annapolis, all glass, white blooms and blue water. A violinist warmed the air with a soft hymn while the sun leaned toward evening. I arrived early with a toolbox and a binder. The toolbox held cable ties, a tiny level, scissors, a roll of tape. The binder held contracts, permits, invoices, and a seating chart that Layla had changed 3 times in 1 week. People called me the organized one. They did not say that organization is what a woman learns when she carries a family with 2 hands and no net. Daryl, my ex-husband, arrived late and shiny, laughing loud like this was his stage. His wife, Sierra, swept in beside him, radiant in a pale gold gown, hair like a crown, perfume like a promise. Sierra ran a beauty bar on the east side with aggressive discounts and a smile that could talk a street light into blinking twice. She called herself a bonus mom. She had a habit of talking to me as if my years of labor were a rumor only I believed. When Layla saw Sierra, she rushed toward her and folded into her arms. I saw the way the photographer lifted the camera. I stepped aside so I would not ruin the picture. I told myself I did not come here for pictures. I came because I promised my child beauty. I had signed the venue deposit with the savings I built from skipped vacations and side gigs. I had negotiated with the caterer and convinced the florist to include anemones at cost. My cousin Marcus printed the programs for free. I had done all of this with a calm face and a quiet hope that the big day would bring us back to soft places. The ceremony began. The officiant asked who would walk the bride down the aisle. Layla turned to Daryl. He took her arm and lifted his chin as if he had built the very ground beneath her feet. People sighed. Sierra dabbed a tear. I sat still and steady, hands in my lap, back straight. I heard someone behind me whisper, "Where is her mother?" Another voice replied, "That must be the aunt." During the reception, when the band shifted to the father-daughter dance, Layla held Daryl like the moment would heal every absence. She thanked her mother in her speech. She thanked her new in-laws for welcoming her. She saved the sweetest praise for Sierra, who she called the woman who showed her what a real mother's grace looks like. She looked across the room to find Sierra and blew her a kiss. She did not look at me. Not once. Not a brush of the eyes. Not the weight of a breath. I sat through it with both feet on the floor. When the music quieted and the last of the cake slid away on small white plates, when the guests drifted toward the exit and the lights softened, Layla came to me. She smelled like roses and champagne. Her smile had no edges. She pressed a folded sheet into my hand. "Final balance, Mom. We thought you would want to square this before we fly out in the morning." I opened the paper. The number looked like a dare. There were line items I knew I had already paid. There were line items I had never seen, labeled Service Coordination Sierra, Consulting Sierra, Beauty Suite Fee Sierra. My heart did not race. My skin did not prickle. A door closed inside me. I placed the paper back into her palm with care, as if returning a fragile thing, and I walked out under the night sky without a word. I drove home through streets I knew by muscle memory, past the corner where Layla learned to ride a bike, past the bus stop where I once waited with her at 4 in the morning for a college visit because I could not afford a rental car. Inside my house, I washed my face and folded my dress over a chair. I did not cry. I made tea that I did not drink. The clock kept walking. At 3 I stood and took my binder from the hall table. I opened it on the kitchen counter and began. I matched every invoice to proof of payment. I flagged the ones with duplicate charges. I circled the new fees that had appeared, like mushrooms after rain. I printed emails where I approved or denied upgrades. I found a string between the florist and Sierra. It was soft and thin at first glance. A thank you from the florist that read, "Glad we got Sierra squared away." My eyes rested on the phrase. I looked again at the florist invoice. A vendor credit had been applied 3 weeks before the wedding for referral Sierra minus 20%. The total charge to me did not reflect that credit. The difference matched exactly one of the new line items on Layla's handwritten bill. I did not sleep. I put on a clean shirt and went to work at the clinic in the morning with the same steady voice I used for frightened clients. At lunch, I made calls. The venue manager, the caterer, the florist. I asked precise questions. I took notes on a yellow pad. With each call, a pattern emerged. Sierra had negotiated side credits for herself under the title planning consultant, then billed those same amounts back to me under names that sounded official. She had put her own beauty bar services onto the bridal party tab without disclosure and had the salon send me a friendly reminder 2 days before the wedding for a charge I had never approved. That reminder did not come to my email. It went to Layla. The subject line read, per Sierra. The amount was the same number at the bottom of the sheet Layla pressed into my hand. There's a kind of anger that shouts and throws things. This was not that. This anger was a clean blade with a cool handle. I called my cousin Aaliyah, who practices family and small business law in Prince George's County. I told her I needed an hour that evening. She told me to bring the binder. I arrived at her office after dark with my binder and a calm pulse. She poured water into a paper cup and motioned for me to begin. I spread the documents across her desk. I described the day, the speech, the bill. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she tapped her pen twice. There is fraud here, she said. There is tortious interference with your contracts. There is unjust enrichment. There is also a mother who is done. I nodded once. I want to do this right, I said. Not with shouting. Not with gossip. With paper. She smiled the kind of smile a woman gives another woman when both of them know they are about to move a mountain without raising their voices. We will file disputes with each vendor and place them on notice, she said. We will send a formal demand for an accounting to the bride and to Sierra. We will list the credits hidden in these invoices and demand restitution. We will copy Daryl for good measure. We will request that the venue place a temporary hold on the security deposit release. We will move carefully and we will leave a record. I drove home under a sky that looked like the inside of a blue shell. I placed my binder beside my tea that had gone cold. I looked at the family photos on the wall. Layla at 7 with her missing front tooth. Layla at 16 with her marching band hat tilted. Layla at 22 in a white coat from her phlebotomy course that she wore home like a cape. I touched the frames one by one. I did not ask why. I did not bargain with memories. I simply said to the quiet room, enough. The next morning, a string of messages arrived. From Layla, from Sierra, from Daryl. Each had a tone I knew by heart. Layla's voice, trying to sound grown, while asking me to stop making things difficult. Sierra's voice sugar thick with the threat that always lives inside sweet. Daryl's voice full of the posture of a man who shows up only when a spotlight is on. I turned my phone face down. I ironed a blouse. I went to work. At noon I signed affidavits that Aaliyah had prepared. At 3 I sat in my car outside the florist shop and watched Sierra step out of a black SUV and stride inside. She did not see me. I waited in the driver's seat and counted 10 slow breaths. I lifted my phone and tapped record. I got out of the car. I walked toward the door, and as it opened from the inside, I heard Sierra laugh and say to the florist, "Just make sure the credits come to me, not to Regina. She is a giver. She will never notice. I stepped in. The florist looked up and froze. Sierra turned toward me with a bright surprise that flattened fast. I said very softly, I noticed. Then I closed the door behind me and let the silence hold. The florist tried to speak, then thought better of it. Sierra recovered first. Her smile returned, careful now, like a knife wrapped in soft cloth. "Regina," she said, "what a coincidence." "No," I answered. "Not a coincidence." I turned my phone so both could see the red dot. Sierra's eyes flickered toward the bouquet table and back. She had a gift for performing grace. She had less practice with truth. "You are recording me," she said. "That is not very classy." "Neither is stealing," I replied. I placed my binder on the counter and opened it to the florist invoices. I placed the copy of the email that referenced credits. I circled the referral line. I did not raise my voice. The florist swallowed hard and said, "I am going to step into the back. This is between you two." "Stay," I told her. "You sent me false totals. You will want to hear what happens next." Sierra crossed her arms and tilted her chin. "So what is your plan, Regina? You will call me names. You will embarrass your daughter. You will make noise." I shook my head. "My plan is paper. We have already filed vendor disputes and placed the security deposit on hold. We have already sent a demand for accounting to you and to Layla. We have requested all communications where you acted as my agent. We have listed each undisclosed credit and each duplicate fee. We have asked that those amounts be returned to me, not to your beauty bar, not to your personal account." Sierra's eyes hardened. "You think you can threaten me with emails and a clipboard. You do not understand who you are playing with." I thought about the women in my clinic waiting room who teach their children to walk through fear with shoulders back. I thought about Layla's missing tooth in the school picture and about the violinist at the wedding who never looked up once. I smiled a little. "No," I said. "I understand. You like to stand between women and their own work and collect a toll." Sierra took a step toward me. In her eyes I saw not elegance, but a ferocity that had learned the wrong lessons. The florist took a small step to the side, hands trembling by her apron pockets. "You will return those credits to me," I said, "and you will do it before 5 today. If you do not, I will take the next step. It will be quiet. It will be final." She held my gaze and weighed it. She did not know what quiet could do. I left the shop with the record still running. In my car, I sent Aaliyah a voice note. I included the time, the names, the phrases. I did not feel relief. I felt alignment. It is a rare thing to feel your bones stand exactly under you. At 4 in the afternoon, Aaliyah called. The venue had placed a freeze on the security deposit. The caterer had discovered a second set of invoices issued to Sierra's beauty bar on the same dates as mine. The florist had volunteered a statement. The beauty bar's bookkeeper had emailed a belated correction for the bridal party charge and a request to send funds to a fresh account. Aaliyah's voice was calm and bright. "We will require a cashier's check and written confirmation that all vendor credits are returned to you," she said. "We will ask for a letter of apology. We will not accept any apology that is not also a correction." By 6, my front step carried the sound of feet pacing. I looked through the peephole. Layla. I let her stand a minute to understand the weight of a closed door. Then I opened it. She stepped in with the air of a girl who had rushed without a jacket. Her cheeks were pink with cold and indignation. She set her purse down as if readying the table to receive her case. "Mom," she began, "please stop. You are making a mess. People are calling me. The venue is holding our deposit. The florist says there is a problem with credits. Sierra is furious. Daryl is blowing up my phone. This is not the way." I listened. I let the whole whirlwind pour out of her. When she finished, I said, "It is the way now. Sit." She sat on the edge of my sofa like a visitor, which is what she had made herself. I placed a copy of the florist email in her hands. I placed the beauty bar invoice that had been sent to her, not to me. I placed the security deposit clause she had signed as an additional contact. Her breath hitched. I spoke quietly because truth does not need volume. You gave a speech about grace while a woman siphoned money from me using your celebration as cover. You erased me to elevate someone who was also using you as a doorway. That is a double theft. She looked at the pages as if they might rearrange themselves into a kinder story. Her face changed as the pattern revealed itself. She whispered, I did not know. I thought Sierra was finding discounts. I thought it was a blessing. I thought you did not want to be bothered. My throat closed. I swallowed and kept going. You did not ask. You wanted a mother who would carry the cost and not the credit. You wanted a mother who would leave no mark, only gifts. I have done that long enough. She looked up, with something raw and open in her eyes that I had not seen in months. Then the rawness hardened into pride. Her voice reached for an old ladder. You walked out of my wedding. You embarrassed me. I tilted my head. You handed me a bill with false charges after you erased my name. I walked away to keep my dignity intact. I will not apologize for that. She stood. The movement was sharp. She grabbed her purse. If you press this, I will never forgive you, she said. This is not about your forgiveness, I replied. It is about the truth you owe. She left. The door closed softly. I sat in the quiet house. I wondered what it costs a mother to choose her own face over a child's approval. I decided that this time I would pay that price. The next morning, Aaliyah forwarded packet. A cashier's check from the florist for the full credit amount. A letter from the venue confirming the hold remained in place until full reconciliation. A curt email from Sierra's Beauty Bar promising to send a partial refund once bank issues cleared. Aaliyah replied that partial would not do. She attached a draft of a complaint that named the acts and the methods. She did not bluff. She did not rattle. She wrote like a woman who carried facts like stones. At noon my office line rang. It was Daryl. He did not greet me. He launched. You are trying to destroy my wife's reputation. You are trying to embarrass our family. You are small and jealous. You have always been small. I let him burn until he needed air. Then I said one sentence. I have the documents, Daryl. Silence. Then, in a smaller voice, trying to put on strength like an old coat, he said, we can work something out. If you stop, we will pay the florist. We will ask the venue to release the deposit. We will move on. You will pay all credits, I said. You will send me a written acknowledgement of the scheme. You will leave my name out of your mouth. He hung up. At 4, a courier arrived. An envelope. A bank check. A letter of apology on Sierra's Beauty Bar letterhead. The first paragraph performed sorrow. The second admitted what could not be denied. The third asked for privacy during this difficult time. I scanned the page with care. I texted Aaliyah. She replied that she would file a notice with each vendor to confirm the circle had closed. She added a line that made me sit very still. There's one more step, she wrote. The scholarship you spoke of. Are you certain? I looked at the check. I thought of my clinic's waiting room. I thought of the young tech who cleans our exam rooms at night and studies during her lunch break. I thought of the boy with a quiet mind who taught himself to braid his baby sister's hair because their mother worked 2 jobs. My chest filled and steadied. I wrote back, yes, transfer the entire recovered amount to the West Baltimore Community Promise Scholarship. Make it in honor of the Black mothers who keep whole cities upright without applause. Evening fell. I imagined Layla at home, staring at her phone, waiting for a text that would tell her what to do next. I did not text. I folded laundry. I watered the plant my aunt had given me when Layla was born. I placed the apology letter in my binder, not as a trophy, but as a map. 3 days passed. On the 4th, Layla came again. She did not pace. She knocked once and waited. I opened the door and stepped back. She walked in holding a folder. Her nails were unpainted. Her face looked like someone who had seen herself in a glass she did not control. She sat without being asked. She opened the folder and placed a stack of papers in my lap. It was an accounting. Every cost, every payment, every credit. It included a cashier's check for the remaining balance Sierra owed that Daryl had covered after the courier visit. It included a signed statement that said in her own handwriting, "I benefited from actions that harmed my mother. I commit to repay all that remains due. I commit to honor boundaries that I crossed. I will earn my way back without asking for shortcuts." Her voice was steady. "I told Sierra to stand down," she said. "I told Daryl that if he called you again, I would block his number. The florist called me and cried. I told her it was not your job to carry her shame. She asked me why you did not just yell at me. I told her you do not yell. You lift a mirror. I looked at my daughter and saw the child who once leaned on my shoulder at a school assembly. I also saw the woman who erased me. Both were true. I sat with the ache of both truths and did not move to cover either one. I will repay you," she said. "Not only money. I will repay the story." I asked the question that mattered. "Why did you hand me that bill with that smile?" She dropped her gaze. "Because Sierra told me a story where you never loved me without a receipt," she said. The story was easier to swallow than the absence I used to feel. When she made me the center, it felt like a cure. I chose a cure that poisoned us both. Her words were not perfect, but they were true. I felt something loosen inside me that was not forgiveness and not victory. It was space. "There's one more thing," I said. She looked up, braced. I told her about the scholarship. I told her where the recovered funds went. I told her why. She listened without interruption. Tears rose and did not fall. She nodded once, deep and slow. "That is right," she said. "That is who you have always been." I did not see it because seeing it meant I had to become more. We sat until the room changed color. When she left, she hugged me. Not a hard hug, not a desperate one, a careful hug that asked permission. I placed my hand on her back and gave a small press I had used since she was a baby. She smiled, startled by a memory waking. As the door closed, I exhaled all the way down to my feet. I turned off the living room lamp. The house glowed in the small light from the stove. My phone buzzed on the counter. A message from an unknown number. It read, "You do not know me. I was the makeup artist at the wedding. Sierra had me change the invoice names the morning of. I felt wrong, and I am scared she will blame me. I can show you the texts." I stared at the screen while the quiet grew thick around me. The knife wrapped in soft cloth had left frayed edges. The ring was wider than I thought. I saved the number. Then I typed, "Yes. Please send everything." The texts came in floods. Screenshots from the makeup artist's phone. A thread of messages where Sierra directed her to bill me for services that the bridal party had paid in cash. A photo of Sierra's handwritten notes with arrows pointing to different women's names and amounts. A voice note where Sierra laughed and said, "Regina will never look at line items, she looks at faces." I sent everything to Aaliyah. She replied that we had enough to go further if I chose. A civil suit would likely succeed. A police report might become a question. Fraud is a word that courts respect. I asked for one day to decide. I walked to Patterson Park and sat on a bench under a tree that was losing leaves with dignity. I watched a group of teenagers practice a dance routine. I watched a man teach a little boy how to throw a spiral with patience. The city held me the way it holds all of us, imperfect and still somehow generous. I asked myself what I wanted. Not revenge as spectacle. Not punishment as entertainment. Not pain returned for pain given. I wanted something harder. I wanted to change the story that made this possible. At dusk I called Aaliyah. "File the civil suit," I said. "Seek a confession of judgment. Ask for a structured repayment that empties the ill-gotten account but leaves her a path to work an honest job. Include a clause that any breach triggers immediate, full judgment. Request an injunction that bars her beauty bar from handling event funds for 2 years. Copy the vendors. Copy Daryl." Aaliyah said, "I will file in the morning." I slept for the first time in days, deep and without dreams. Morning came like a soft knock. I woke to 3 messages. One from the makeup artist, grateful and relieved. one from the florist, asking to meet in person to return what she called the last piece of my dignity. One from Layla, short and steady. Thank you for not burning it all down. I will testify if needed. At noon, Daryl called from a number I did not recognize. The call went to voicemail. His voice was raw and messy and suddenly small. He said he had not known. He said he had believed Sierra when she told him I was controlling and hard. He said that when the suit arrived, he watched Sierra throw a glass across their kitchen and call me words that sounded like fire. He said he did not know who he was married to. He asked me to call him back. I did not. I met the florist at her shop. She stood behind the counter with a small box. She said she had something that belonged to me. She opened the box and lifted out the handwritten place card from the wedding that should have been on the head table. It said Mother of the Bride in neat black script. It had never been set out. Sierra had told the planner that I preferred to sit away from the head table because I was shy. The planner had filed the card behind the counter when the seating changed for the third time that afternoon. The florist found it when cleaning. I placed my fingers on the card and felt the thickness of the paper. The florist's eyes filled with tears. She said she was sorry. She asked if I would ever forgive her. I told her forgiveness is not a blanket. It is a blanket stitch. You add it one loop at a time by doing what is right. She nodded and said she now offers transparent invoices with clear credits to every customer. She said women like me make the city worth saving. I left the shop with the card in my pocket. I did not frame it. I did not burn it. I put it between 2 pages of my binder where it belonged. Evidence that there had been a place with my name on it that someone hid. A reminder that I had built my own table. A month passed and the suit moved forward. Sierra's attorney asked for a private settlement. Aaliyah countered with public accountability. The day before the hearing, Sierra delivered a confession of judgment that admitted the acts, the credits, the double billing, the falsified names. The judge approved the structure that Aaliyah proposed. If Sierra missed 2 payments, the full judgment would snap into place. The injunction barred her beauty bar from handling event funds for 24 months. The vendors signed letters acknowledging their part and promising corrective action. The news spread in small circles that live on whispers and group chats. No headlines, just a new understanding around certain tables about the cost of taking from a woman who keeps her receipts. Layla came to see me on a Sunday afternoon when the house smelled like lemon oil and turkey wings. She asked if she could set the table. She moved slowly through the kitchen, touching the old spoon that had served 1,000 family dinners. After we ate, she took my hand and pressed a small envelope into it. It held her first repayment, earned from extra shifts and the sale of a designer bag. It held also a photo of her as a little girl in my arms, both of us grinning into a summer sun. On the back, she had written, "For the story we are writing now." We washed dishes together. She dried and stacked. I scrubbed and rinsed. We moved like women who know kitchens as places of truce and truth. When we finished, she asked if I would come to her first prenatal appointment in 2 weeks. Her voice wavered. I looked at her and saw the tightrope. If I said yes too fast, I would turn the clock back to a time before boundaries. If I said no, I would punish the child for the mother's learning curve. I said, I will come if I set the terms. We will go together. We will not invite commentary. We will leave if anyone tries to make a show of us. She nodded. That is fair. 2 weeks later we sat in a quiet medical office. The ultrasound screen flickered. A heartbeat whispered into the room like an old hymn. Layla's hand clutched mine. I felt her tremble. I felt my own heart turn toward this new life with a care I could not pretend away. I did not call it forgiveness. I called it a new assignment. When we walked out of the clinic into winter sun, a car idled at the curb. Sierra sat behind the wheel with sunglasses on, mouth set. She stepped out when she saw us and drew herself up straight. She began to speak, but I raised a hand. No, I said. There is nothing for you to say to me that does not pass through a courtroom or a bank. Her mouth opened and closed. She turned to Layla. "Baby," she began. Layla looked at her with a calm that I had not seen before. "I am not your baby," she said, and the sentence carried the clean mercy of truth. "I will not hold your shame. I will hold my child." Sierra's face crumpled. For a second, I saw a girl who had learned to survive by taking before someone took from her. I did not move to comfort. That was not my work. She got back into the car and pulled away too fast. The gust of her passing lifted a few dry leaves and set them down again. Months turned like pages. The scholarship fund sent a photo of 3 students who received awards in the name of the Black mothers who keep cities upright. I placed the photo on my refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a small heart. Layla made each of her repayments on time. She sent short notes with each one that did not ask for praise. Daryl stayed quiet. The florist delivered a bouquet to the clinic on a busy Wednesday with a card that said, "Thank you for teaching me the difference between apology and repair." One evening in spring, Layla called to say she had a surprise. I opened my door to find her standing on the porch with a rolled canvas tied with twine. She walked in and unrolled it on my table. It was a painting from a local artist she followed. The painting showed a Black woman seated with her back straight, her hands folded, her eyes steady. There was a place card on the table before her that said Mother. No of the bride, no of the groom, just Mother. It was simple and clean. It felt like the inside of the name I had carried before weddings and after. I looked at my daughter and saw that we had both changed shape. 2 weeks later, the baby arrived in a storm that rattled the windows. When I held him for the first time, he stared at me with serious eyes as if we already knew each other from long before. Layla watched my face and asked the question she had held like a bead in her mouth for months. "Will you be in his life?" I said yes, but not as a cushion for your poor choices, as his grandmother, and as your mother when you choose truth. She nodded and cried. I held them both. The storm passed. The house settled. Summer came. I walked to the park with my grandson tucked against my chest in a carrier. The air smelled like cut grass and promise. My phone buzzed with a number I did not know. Aaliyah's text arrived at the same moment. She wrote, "You will want to answer that." I stepped to a bench and picked up. A smooth voice spoke. "Miss Cole, my name is Denise Hughes. I manage philanthropy partnerships for the Kemp Foundation. We saw the structure of your community scholarship. We were impressed by the integrity of the model. We are interested in funding the program for 5 years if you are willing to share your framework with a network of community health clinics." I looked at the baby sleeping against me. I watched a group of girls chase each other across the grass. I thought of the binder on my kitchen counter and of every mother I had known who built order out of chaos with nothing but a list and a prayer. I said yes, with conditions. The money must go directly to the students and to the clinics. The stories remain owned by the families. The name of the image at the center does not change. "What name is that, Miss Cole?" she asked. I said Mother. We spoke for 20 minutes about terms and timelines. When I hung up, I laughed once, a surprise sound that felt like a door opening toward a clean hall. The revenge I had wanted had burned itself into something larger. Not flames, not ashes. A furnace. Something that makes heat useful. That evening, Layla came over with the baby and a small cake. She lit one candle and said, "Today is for the day you walked out in silence. It saved us. I did not know how to live without applause. You taught me how to live with truth." We ate cake on the sofa. The baby slept. The house hummed. I took out my binder and slid a fresh tab into it. I wrote on the tab in clear letters, "New story." Much later, after she left and the house went quiet, I stood at the window and watched the street. A familiar car turned the corner and slowed in front of my house. Sierra sat alone, eyes shining in the glow of the dashboard. She did not stop. She drove on. But before the car disappeared, she looked up at my window and lifted her hand from the wheel in a small gesture that was not apology and not request. It was something else. A recognition that a door she had used for years was no longer there. I closed the curtain. I turned off the lamp. I went to bed and slept deep. I dreamed of a long table under open sky. My place card stood at the center. It said Mother in my own handwriting. People I had helped took their seats without fear. Music rose from somewhere I could not see. The air felt clean. And in the morning, when light found the edges of my kitchen, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. I opened it and read one line. There are more girls like me in Sierra's files. Do you want the list? I stared at the words as the kettle began to sing. I felt the old blade steady itself in my hand, cool and precise. I typed yes. Send it now. The day stretched open before me, bright as a fresh page. Thank you for watching till the very end. It truly means a lot, and please subscribe to my channel. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. Goodbye for now.